You're listening to Dropkick Mike and Black Tim on the Devil Dies podcast.
So yeah, we've got Black Tim that's normally with me as my co-host, but he is out for a month, so it's just you and I.
Cool.
We just get to do it together. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 12 of Devil's Dice podcast. We've got Briona Jolie, not Jolie, Jolie. Got to fancy it up a little bit. And tell everybody what you do.
Yeah, so I am a professional channel, a healer. Some might also call a shamanic practitioner. I'm in current training for that right now. And so what I basically do is I help people connect deeper into their soul's work. Some might call their purpose, their passions, their soul's mission, while also doing healing work on them. As a conservationist, I love bringing nature into the conversation as well. So I use animals and nature as a way in which we can have a mirror basically into our soul's mission and our soul's truth and healing as well.
That's so much.
Yeah. A lot of things.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
So cool. So tell us how you got started in all of this. I mean, basically from the time you were a kid, right?
Yeah. So as a child, I grew up as an only child. And so my playground was nature. I was already kind of tuning in. And when I was in elementary school, I wanted nothing to do with the regular societal programming to follow the ducks in the row.
Sure.
And I also grew up, with some trauma like most of us in our childhood.
Every single one of us.
Every single one of us. And navigating that was challenging, but it also helped me to learn what my strengths are, what my wisdom is, how I learn to heal myself, in which I can give that to others. And professionally, it all awakened for me during the pandemic. I actually used to be an art teacher.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like in schools?
In schools, public schools, Florida schools.
Oh, in Florida?
Yeah.
What made you come to Colorado?
Oh, I love the mountains. Just even more nature to go in and explore, truly. But public school was not doing it for me. And it wasn't obviously working for the other kids like it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
And we were told, go home. And I really had to sit with, is this what I want to continue to do?
Did you do the whole online thing or tried that teaching remotely? And
yeah, we did that. But with my extra free time, I started, sharing my gifts with other people because before they were in the closet. Before it was like a boyfriend would come over and my tarot deck would like hide, under the bed. So I just became more comfortable, more open about, this is a huge part of who I am and bringing it more to the forefront of what I do. And it blossomed into a beautiful online business. And now I'm starting to do in-person work too. So,
oh, that's neat. So you're hitting people still remotely online all over the world? Or?
All over the world. All over the world.
Do you have anybody famous that you're working with right now?
Not yet. But it would be really cool. I mean, I've worked with and have colleagues who are very well known in our field and have done retreats with them and worked with them. So definitely in the future, you could probably see me with them and then also blossoming into my own thing with,
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you said when you were young that you had like nature was your playground, right? Mm-hmm. Describe what you mean by that.
Yeah. So when I would go out into nature, I was very conscious to the fact that it wasn't just me alone outside. There are spirits around me. The animals are communicating with me. There's like a deeper symbology and metaphor to everything that's going on. That might have just been because I was listening more, might have been just because I was open, because truly we all have this gift.
Sure.
Everyone has this gift. Everyone is intuitive. It's just those who choose to open up and listen. So maybe I was just more open to listening at that point and trusting and allowing that to build. And I was connecting to my guides and spirits, my ancestors in a way, some of it was conscious, some of it was subconscious. I didn't truly know I'm working with my ancestors at that age. But, as I grew and as I evolved and as I began to learn, it just blossomed even more. The more that I became confident and trusted in it, the better my gifts truly became.
So how old were you when you had your first realization or experience like that?
Yeah. So I would say the first one where I could pinpoint, oh, I'm like a healer. Oh, I'm an intuitive was, I would say probably high school.
Okay.
From a young age, actually, I was kind of working on my parents, doing healing on them, but not really realizing it.
So were your parents into it? Was that kind of your influence how you kind of realized and could understand what it was that you were experiencing, or?
No, I'm the only one in my family
Really?
who does this work. When I say I was doing healing work on my parents, they, were going through their own troubles, their own problems. My dad was an alcoholic and was, struggling with his own battles. I knew instinctively how to help them to talk through their emotions. I knew instinctively, what the words that they sang weren't the true words that were matching with their soul.
Oh, wow.
How to bring more of their soul piece to the forefront. How do we really work with this? But consciously, like actually understanding and know what I was doing, I think it was probably in high school, if not early college, when, I also began to learn how to have the tools help and confirm for me, like doing tarot for my friends, allowing my guides to kind of help me lean into what is this person really needing. A dog comes up to me and someone says, they're not really feeling well. And I just like tune in. I'm like, yeah, okay, just prescribe them more fish or something like that, So then it was, and I think at that age, I was like, okay, I understand that I've been doing this for my whole life, but like actually building and giving a name to it.
And understanding a knowledge of what it actually is.
Yeah.
Did you take on any kind of mentors or anything like that to kind of guide you at that point, or?
At first I was going solo.
Yeah.
But in the pandemic, when we were told to go home, I told myself, now it's time to get serious. So I did reach out to mentors and people who have helped me along the way. My two shamanic teachers right now are unbelievable, and I've been working with them for an entire year now in an apprenticeship doing work together. So I just love learning and going deeper. And although I do truly trust that I would be able to find my own way. It just, the community aspect helps so much. And again, they can help me see, where my blind spots are, because we all have them too, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And what was that like? Were you totally intimidated to try to reach out to somebody like, I've got this gift, but I don't know who's going to believe me or anything like that? Or is it just a good positive energy that you're just finding people left and right?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to say I have never worked with somebody who wasn't a right fit. I was just really, really good at discerning, who's really right here for my path. And more so along the terms of, I need now to find like a business person to help me do this. I did not run into, my intuition didn't always lead me in the right way. There are, some of my ego might have came in with that. But when it came to like healers and people who are there to help me work and attune to my gifts more, that came in really, really beautifully and positively. Yeah. And there was no intimidation, because the people that I choose to work with don't have that egoic level. They're very much so meet you where you're at.
Yeah. And most people into the metaphysical world
Yeah.
are pretty grounded, pretty not egotistical at all. And it's about helping others mostly.
Yeah. You do need to have a high discernment, because some people will really take it and allow their egos to run with it.
Sure.
So that discernment is still really good. If anyone's like interested, like do keep that an important piece in mind. But yes, most people who are here for the right reasons are doing it from the grounded level. I'm here where you're at. I've been where you are, and I can help you along that path at your pace too.
So what's the difference? Because like you said, we all have this intuity, right? Mm-hmm. We all have this kind of like sixth sense that we feel energies, we feel bad, trust your gut, that whole thing. Yeah. How do you evolve from that and take that to the next level and start to actually, do what you do? Yeah.
So, well, the first thing is to accept the truth that we are not humans, with a spirit. We are souls and spirit having a human experience. It's kind of learning first to totally flip your perspective on that, because once first you flip your perspective on that, two, again, you learn to listen instead of allow your mind to guess and tell you what's actually going on or make a logical story about it.
Logic.
Right. Then it's no like like certain process or step. It's so different for everybody, but you will learn to open and again, listen with more of your intuitive ears, your intuitive eyes to see, again, beyond what your like current reality is and continue to build upon what this new perspective could open up for you. And then that can lead you into so many different paths. You learn what your gifts are through that process. You learn, am I an intuitive who hears spirit? Am I intuitive who sees spirit? Am I intuitive who knows spirit? Because the biggest problem for me, which I feel like it took me, although I'm very young, so when I say it took me so long to figure this out, people are looking at me like, yeah, right.
How old are you?
I'm 25.
You're
26,
you're young enough. It's fair. I'm allowed to ask. So
yeah, but to most people, like, oh no, you've came into this so young. But
yeah,
it does feel like it took me a long time to get here. But the struggle is when I grew up, and what probably most people grew up with when they saw psychics or intuitives, they're talking about their visions. They're talking about what they hear.
Right.
And you're like, well, I don't have that, so I must not have it. Well, that's not the case. We have 5, almost 6 different clair senses, which are different gifts that we all have, and each of us have unique combo of some. I learned that I am a claircognizant, which is just a knower, and a clairsentient, so a feeler. I don't have the visions or sometimes, but it's not my main tool of guidance. So again, once you learn to trust and open up and allow yourself to see yourself from a different perspective, then you can begin to say, okay, now what are my gifts and how can I use these tools to help me? Because if I was continuing to try to learn how to hear spirit this whole time, I would not be where I was today.
Really?
Yeah, no.
So it's not something acquisitional. You can't acquire this talent. It's or can you?
You can with certain training.
Okay.
But the comparison things, it might not be exactly the same way someone else was to channel or to tune in, to tap in. And that is where we just really need to let go of our ego on that. Sure, we can all hear to a certain extent, but like to the level or detail, that might very well so just be different.
And when you say hear, explain what you mean by that.
Like hearing spirit. If spirit is in this room right now, and if I was to tune in to that spirit, would me, Briona, with the 2 gifts I just spoke about, would I be trying to listen this whole time and hear what they have? Probably not. I would more so try to open up to my feelings and tune in that way, or just my knowing. What are they here for? I already know, type of thing. So when I say hearing, seeing, I mean seeing beyond the veil, seeing beyond what's, here into the spirit world as well. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. And so when you're working with someone, what types of things do people come to you for?
So as a healer, a lot of people want healing work. So I do meet with people, to discuss certain traumas.
Is this emotional or physical or both? Or are we
both.
talking about Reiki? Or are we talking about what are we doing?
It can be both. So mostly what people come to me for, this is probably because I was really good at it, is childhood wounds, childhood things, what happened to us as a child. How did that story kind of stunt what our perspective of ourself is? I fell off my bike and had a really traumatic experience, scraped my leg. I never want to ride a bike again. I'm someone who's not safe to go out and go on adventures. And I help them retell that story. Emotional, psychological traumas type stuff. Yeah.
And you feel that you're connected that way to people, and you have that because you went through something.
Oh, yeah. And that's, we, as intuitives, or if you go into the role as a healer, you need to walk the walk first before you talk the talk. So I always tell people that go there first. What did you go through? How did you get yourself through it? Because most cases, no one told us by a book.
Yeah.
We had to intuitively, instinctually learn how to mend ourselves. And sometimes that does take another person to fully get there. But some cases, a lot of us were super resilient and learned how to do that again, naturally and intuitively ourselves. So I work with those type of people. And I also help people learn what their gifts are. So I also help to train people in, discovering what their intuitive gifts are, how they work, how to gift them to others, and things like that.
What does that process look like?
Oh, it's really fun because, everyone comes to me, I can't see spirit, I can't hear spirit. And I was like, well, same. Like, again, sometimes I do.
Yeah.
But if that was my only thing that I could rely on, then I would just be sitting here with nothing to do. So I learned to say, like, let go of that, let go of what you were brought up with or what you told the psychic looks like, and learn what your psychic is, what your intuitive gift is. And then once they do that, they're like, oh my gosh, like, you're so right. And now I'm interacting with spirit this way. And now I'm able to connect in this way. And it's so much more personal and so much more powerful that way too.
Do you find that you run into negative energies a lot? And what do you do when that's the case, where you meet someone who maybe is just surrounded by something negative, and you need to protect them, protect yourself first before you work with them, obviously.
Yeah, no,
and
protection is huge.
Yeah.
I would say the more stronger you get within your gifts, the more protection you need, because people will naturally feel drawn to that.
Yeah.
And they don't always come with the best intentions. It's more so like, I want to take. So it's really important to go into those relationships, client relationships, with an exchange, a specific intention, but also, protection. So I do a lot of intake before I work with people, long-term, short-term, to really get, like, what are they really here for?
Right.
Is it just to take? Is it just to... the energy vampire does exist. Like, is it just to, suck on my life force type of thing? Or are they really here to learn so that they can gift to others? Right. So that's really important. But, I think what you attract also, if you're in the right integrity, you tend to attract that too. So, I've had one or two, but was able to, set up clear boundaries with that as well. That's important too. Mm-hmm.
And you keep saying Clara this, Clara that.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Just explain to people, because not everyone knows what exactly we're talking about. So give a little insight into what it is that you do in layman's terms.
Mm-hmm. So when I talk about the clairs, I'm talking about the 5 to 6 different senses that we could all be born with. And again, have some combo of 2. Clairaudience is the ability to hear spirit. Clairsentience is the ability to feel or know the energy that's in the room. Claircognizance is the ability to know. Kind of, it just drops in as a knowing. I know, what the right choice is here, the right instinct here. Then people have the smell. That's like a funny word that I actually don't even know that well, because it's not a gift that I really tune into at all. I think it's clairgustance. It's like smell and taste.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, then there's, maybe even some that we haven't even like totally created words for. But yeah, we all have a certain combo of a few or maybe all. And yeah, and it's just really fun to be able to feel into, like, what is yours? Are you someone who just knows? Are you someone who feels? Maybe you are someone here when you're alone and it's not super busy and you're like, did I just hear like my grandma? Like, did I just hear, or I ask a question and I hear, what the guidance is on that. So,
and how do you interpret what you're feling? Because you said you don't hear, right?
Right.
That you're more of a feeler. And so the energies, when someone comes to you, what type of person comes to you and asks you for what? What do they normally come to you for?
Yeah. So a great example would be wanting to do, more of their intuitive work, or wanting to learn more about their magic and what they're here to do. What's my purpose? That's a big one I get all the time. What's my big purpose? I'm like, well, your purpose is to evolve. So good job. Like, we're all doing that. But you mean like what is your work? What is your soul work? What you're here to do? That's a big one I get. So when they come to me and we kind of start discussing this, I start to ask them, tell me about you. Tell me about your story, because this automatically drops the logical mind and people just open up their hearts. And then I can really feel, because then that's a whole different nuance too. If people are closed off,
sure.
That's another thing, is some people, they go to like do work with somebody and they're like, I didn't get anything. I'm like, well, maybe that person just didn't want to share their energy.
Yeah.
Like maybe they just were so protective that you can't read them, and that exists too. So I like to open them up by having them tell me their story, just like tell me about your life. You
Yeah.
know, what happened? And, you know, I'm listening, I'm hearing, and I'm feeling, but more so I'm feeling. And, you know, I might tune in and say, did you feel, you know, in that specific moment, was that emotion like really carried throughout, you know, a certain pattern in your life? Oh yeah, I always feel this when this happens, when a crowd comes in or this or that, like, and then I need to, you know, use my skill set as a listener, a healer, a feeler. Symbols, metaphors come through really big for me. And so I read those symbols, you know, sometimes the feeling comes in like, I feel like a mother's warmth, or I feel, like an infant, you know, wanting to come through. So then I'm like, oh, maybe we're actually here to not discuss that. And maybe we're here to talk about your relationship with your mom. Maybe we're here to discuss, you know, what happened during your birth period. And then we can kind of go into the deeper layers. But that's just kind of an example of, you know, how a feeling, you can actually use your imagination or use kind of symbology to then interpret the feeling. I almost say it's especially for clients, because it's like, how do you describe all your feelings to them? Or how do you describe all your knowings to them? I'm like, well, I got to do a little extra work by painting a picture.
Sure.
So symbols, metaphors helps to paint like if I had a certain feeling, how would I paint this? And that's how I deliver it to the client or help them to understand what we're really talking about.
So a lot of it is psychological, right? You're helping them to deal with an emotion or with something from their past.
Oh yeah.
And opening them up to accepting that it's not who they are today.
Yeah.
And it's not what makes them who they are. Or is that kind of a great description?
Yeah.
Or
Healers and intuitives, we're not therapists, but we work really great with therapists.
Yeah.
And we always ask consensually, if you are working with a therapist, let them know that I'm working with you and if that's okay.
Oh, wow.
Because it's great. I do have a lot of clients. They're like, yeah, I'm in therapy. It's good. You know, it's good to have that constant, you know, and have that professional look at it.
Sure.
But there's like a certain aspect of that where it's like, but the soul piece isn't being brought in, or the soul piece, we're really diving into my brain, but to heal the soul piece behind that experience is where we come in, type of thing. So we work as a great team, definitely, but it is inherently psychological.
Do you run into like people that are seeing someone for, you know, and that just don't want you to touch the person or work with them at all or anything like that? Or do you ever experience that?
No, they're actually pretty open to it.
That's good.
Because especially, I mean, we're going to hopefully continue to keep this relationship. They know that we don't cross that boundary. Most therapists and people in that industry know that we don't cross the boundary of we are your therapist.
Right.
We are very clear on that. Like, you'll read any healer's description on their website and there's a disclaimer there. But again, great additional stuff because we go beyond the psyche and again can tap into the soul piece that could get lost or stuck in that experience. And you can talk about it and, you know, do all that all you want. But if that soul piece is still stuck there from that traumatic experience, then it's really hard to continue.
Which totally makes sense. Because I mean, even, and I experienced it at a young age too. When I was a teenager, I was a troublemaker, right? I was the rebel. I was the rebel kid. But yeah, so my mom put me in with a psychologist and I didn't feel like anything. This is just science. You're just trying to dissect my brain and figure out why I'm rebellious and all that stuff.
Right.
But when, you know, my mom did start to get into, you know, reading some spirit cards and things like that. We've got Native background,
Cool.
you know, Native American background in our family. And she was pretty much into it at that time. It was the 80s. So there's a lot of people that were into, you know, the house was decorated in Southwestern. You got, you know, dream catchers everywhere and stuff like that. But mom was into it and mom loved the crystals and loved, you know, feeling energies and things like that. And when I started meeting some of her friends that were like that, that's when I was like, no, I'm more connected with this person. Like I feel more open to talking with this person than I do this psychologist or therapist or whoever it was. So that's a major aspect of it.
Yeah, not to disregard them because they do fantastic work. And of course,
they're all right,
there are things that, you know, that I don't know that they can help with. But no, I've absolutely sat on the couch with people and I'm literally sitting there like 5 minutes with this person and we just, you know, tell me about your life. And it goes into that story. And, they leave and they said, oh my God, you've done so much for me within 5 minutes that, 20 years of therapy never helped me with.
Well, because I think, and maybe you'll agree, when you're talking to a therapist, it's all psychological. You're worried about being evaluated.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Someone like you, sit down with you feel calm.
Yeah.
The energy's there and you can start to open up really emotionally.
Yeah.
Instead of just, because I feel like there's a difference between psychological and emotional.
Yes.
And that's huge. When you feel comfortable with somebody, you tend to open up a little bit more.
Yeah. And we don't necessarily always have to talk during the entire session, right? Like I can lead you through a journey or a meditation, and we can go there in a totally different way than actually bringing up the trauma itself, because that can be re-traumatizing.
Yeah.
So, sometimes even on behalf of clients, I will, collect the story, which is basically their life history. And, I'll say, okay, great. And I'm going to go into journey space. I'm going to do the work in spirit world if I have your consent. And then I'll come back and I'll tell you what we did. And, I'll just help you to integrate that. And they're like, oh, great. Okay, cool. So there's so many different ways too, in which we can do that, where it's trauma informed. And again, it hits not just the mind, but the body and the soul in different ways too.
Do you find people that come to you that like, I need to talk to my dad. Mm-hmm. My dad passed away 20 years ago and I need him to know that, do you ever get anything like that? Or is this a different realm that you're dealing with?
It's a little bit of a different realm. I do not do mediumship. Like that's not my thing,
Okay.
But I know if someone comes to me is like, I need to do mediumship or speak with a medium, I'm like, yeah, I got someone for you. Although they do come in, like just yesterday, I was doing an Akashic record reading on a client, and her grandma came through. So
oh, wow.
I was like, and I'm always open to it, but it's not the first thing that people kind of know me for. And for those who are wondering, what the heck is the Akashic Records?
I was going to ask.
The Akashic Records, simply put, is basically your entire soul's history. So it is where a channel like myself will go into kind of a trance state or a channeled state, and I visit your Akashic records. So I open up your soul's history, all of your past lives, all of your present experiences, all of what you're going to be doing in your future, every emotion, everything that's been said, every experience is recorded. Basically, it's kind of like your destiny timeline.
Yeah.
And that is a really great tool to open up if people have any past life trauma that is present within them today. You might, meet people who are like, I have this fear of water, but I've never been in the ocean.
Why.
I've never lived close to the water. So I'm like, probably past life. Let's go in and check it out, or some ancestral stuff, things like that. So that's what the Akashic records are for. That's one of the tools and modalities I use on top of shamanic things and stuff like that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'd like to know where the heck I've been.
Yeah. It's so, and that's really beautiful too, because different from therapy in the sense that sometimes all you need to do is recognize and have the story told to you. Oh, you were in this place, and you might have this fear of like public speaking, and then we go and we see that you were in the Salem witch trials.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that happens. And sometimes it's just like, we just need to visit it, see it, accept it. We don't really need to go into it. It starts to unlock and open people up already when they start to realize, oh, I don't carry that from here.
I understand.
I was in the past and I can let that go, type of thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How cool. Mm-hmm. Now you talk about the different tools that you use.
Yeah.
Right? Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So Akashic Records being one of them, really amazing tools. It's specifically a purely channeled method. So if you're channel is basically, I am a conduit, I am a body, I am a soul that allows spirits, ancestors, it could be past loved ones, to come through and speak through me or share what has happened through me, basically. Sometimes I'm in a pure channeling state and like my voice will change and you can really feel that it's them coming through. Yeah. Or sometimes it's, I see them, I feel them, and I'm also interpreting what they're sharing with me for them. So it's the Akashic Records, more of like a fully channeled state of being. And again, tap into past lives and all this stuff. I love and had created my own tarot deck. So tarot is a really fun, simple tool for all the muggles out there who want to like
the nomads
who want to like tap in, but are like, whoa, I don't know if I can access my Akashic records right away. It's great because you can already have some of what spirit is showing you as symbols for yourself to practice with and interpretate. And there's beautiful like archetypes and things that it's like a really good tool for humans, to really simplify, to really help like, oh yeah, I can kind of connect to that archetype and how that relates to this story. And again, all these things you can do healings with, you can, go deeper into, your emotions with, you can tap into what your gifts are, and all of these modalities. It's just like what works better for the person at that time sort of thing. So tarot is great for that. I've been in a shamanic apprenticeship for about a year, and the shamanic world is very different. We go through totally different type of training. I'm specifically being trained in Norse and Celtic shamanism.
Okay.
Yeah. So my ancestors
You're Viking.
are Vikings. Yeah. Can you tell?
Yeah.
So that is beautiful. We do things like soul retrievals. Soul retrievals, I was just kind of briefly talking about if a soul piece is left in a traumatic experience, a shaman will go in and retrieve that soul piece.
When you say soul piece, explain that a little bit deeper.
Yeah. So say a traumatic event happens, you're in middle school and someone trips you and you fall down the stairs. Like that's pretty traumatic. Right. And you're looking at everyone, they're looking at you.
Laughing.
Laughing, a soul piece of you can be left in that experience. It's like, I don't feel safe in this body, this person anymore. I'm out, type of thing. And they can just kind of be left in limbo, like just, and as the person grows and grows and grows, they have more than one, sometimes traumatic experience or sometimes none. Maybe that's the only thing. But that person continues to walk through their life and they feel like something's missing, but they don't know what it is.
So like maybe like in a simple way of saying it, like left some confidence, some trust, something like that there. Okay.
Yeah. Left a part of them basically in that experience. And they continue to walk their life. And, sometimes it's not super noticeable, but there's a sense of like, I don't feel fully whole in a sense. Yeah. Especially like you just perfectly explained, like confidence, self-worth,
trust
in other people, that very much so can get left in that piece. So what's beautiful is it's trauma informed, so we don't need to relive that trauma. We don't need to go in to discuss all the things that happen. And no, the shaman says, I'm going to go into spirit journey world, which basically means I'm going to go into trance and I'm going to take my guides with me, and they're going to take me to that piece that was left there. And it's a really fascinating, experience. There is some negotiating there. Some pieces are like, I don't want to come back, but and then you learn how to negotiate with them and say, this person is doing so many big, beautiful things. They would be so much more full of themselves and even more confident to do the things that they want to do if you came back.
Yeah.
And then they'll say, oh, okay, baby. Yeah. So then we bring them back and then we solidify and help them integrate. Okay, now that this piece is returned in you, there is a little bit of work that you got to do to like fully accept this piece. So we might suggest, for that example with the school thing, it's like buy a new pair of shoes that don't make you trip, like something funny like that. That'll just help them remind themselves this piece is back and more full. So that's a specific aspect of, that specifically only shamans do with people is soul retrievals. But there's other things. Basically, the shamanic path, we always bring in the perspective of nature into our work. And we do actual work in the spirit world where sometimes other people healers do. They bring the spirit to them and they do work here, but we go in there and do work and bring it back.
And you do this with the client while the client's right there?
So I do stuff online. You can do all of this stuff online because energy, spirit, it's not necessarily tangible or physical. We don't need to be in person to do this.
Really?
Yeah. I can do this with someone on FaceTime pretty much, or I can do it in person with them. But no, I primarily built my business completely online just so I could meet and sit with people from all over the world and just get a better worldview perspective,
Yeah.
of what's going on. Because shit happens all over the world. So you really learn, to equip yourself with maybe even stronger tools to combat that. But I'm really getting interested now that we've like found more of our home here in Colorado to do more like stuff in person with people, because that's really fun too.
Yeah. And people here are far more accepting than probably in a lot more places. There's people that will actually reach out to someone like yourself without judgment or anything like that.
Yeah.
What do you say to someone who maybe hasn't tried this, right? Or doesn't necessarily believe in it, but still has that part of them that needs to be healed, or they're still living with that trauma. What do you say to someone like that?
Well, here's the thing of finding the right healer.
Yeah.
The right healer will see that, and they will know that you need to be ready for that. No matter how dark or deep the piece is and how badly I would want you to step forward and say, I'm ready for that, I can help them to explain, what, if maybe there's like a religious fear around it, I can help explain, and help them, it doesn't need to be focused on that. This is totally separate from that. There's no judgment here. And to help them feel a little bit more open to, but there does need to be a piece of them that comes forward and says, I need this, I'm ready.
Yeah.
If they're meeting the wrong healer will persuade them to think, you need this and it needs to happen now, because even if they told me they're ready, but they weren't really ready, and I did all that work on them, it would never integrate.
Yeah.
It would never fully solidify. And that would actually cause more of an issue, because then they would think, oh, well, I saw a person who knows how to heal this and it never got healed in me. So I guess I'm a lost cause.
Now there's more nails in the door keeping it closed.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and then, so you talked about shaman. I know you use runes as well.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that tool.
Yeah, so runes are...
There's the Hank.
Yeah, he's talking. Runes are specifically a shamanic tool.
Okay.
It's ancestral piece. Runes are one of the oldest, I would say, like hieroglyphics and things like that, but one of the oldest magical symbols that have still thrived and exist today. How many times have we all seen runes on Game of Thrones?
Of course.
Lord of the Rings.
Video games everywhere. They're everywhere.
Video games.
Tattoos.
It's very impressive. And I know, because they're in essence like spirits. They're like, hey, yeah. So runes are magical symbols. But if we were to look at it as a shamanic perspective, they also are kind of like their own entities. They're also their own spirits. And like tarot, you can do casts with them, but they go a little bit deeper, because each rune has its own symbol, which even by looking at it can do healing work on you. Or if you were to speak the rune in the native tongue, the sound vibration does a healing for you. So when you cast a rune, they can tell a story about a certain experience, situation. You can pretty much ask anything, and can help you develop better insight on that, but not just reading them like you would tarot. Actually, like I mentioned, seeing the runes, saying them out loud can actually help you to do deeper work on it. Like if I'm working with abundance and wealth, and Fehu comes out, the rune of wealth. If I'm saying that, or if I see the rune, it will instill more confidence in my ability to receive and accept wealth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're
manifest it.
Yeah. And runes are really great too. I think anything Nordic is really great for men or people who feel more masculine, because we're told that we see a lot of people like from the military, like if they're going to dive into spirituality, they tend to do the Nordic stuff
first, of course.
And it's the gateway. So it's really, really cool. It's feminine and masculine, but it does have a little bit more gusto, which is cool. Yeah.
And then, okay, so here's a crazy question.
Yeah.
So obviously everybody has a belief on what happens after this life, right? After this physical life. I happen to believe that we're all made of energy, and that our energy does go somewhere. You've tapped into some of that on the outside by being able to travel out and all that stuff. So where are we going? Where are we going to end up? What's happening?
Well, my belief, and from my experience with working with different clients, is, we are here, as I mentioned at the beginning, We are here as spirits having a human experience.
Yes.
You are going to continue to come back to learn your human lessons that you did not learn. And until you do, then you might evolve, ascend into something like an ascended master for somebody else in this human plane. You might ascend and just as a guide, a spirit that supports the animals or the land, depending on your work that you did here. Or, you might just fade. You might just go back into the stars where we all came from and be a shining light in the darkness. But I do believe in reincarnation, especially what I've seen with past lives and how many lives people have lived. And
Really?
Thousands,
Really?
It's not hundreds.
Really?
Thousands to learn the lessons and again to have the human experience so that we can evolve, grow, have our frequency, our soul become even bigger. It's really, really beautiful. And
do you believe in karmic value? Do you believe that like people who do evil, you're not just going to come back to try to be a better person, but you're going to come back in a situation that might be punishing for you for what you believe in any of that?
I think actually sometimes that happens before we even reach the next life, that karma kind of comes back around. The universe doesn't like voids and is very quick to correct things. So to wait a whole nother lifetime for that, comeuppance or what you would say, that karma, I think it actually happens sooner than we think.
Really?
Yeah. In like little ways that maybe you don't always realize, but the other person deeply feels in that sense. But I would say in spirit's highest intent, they do want you to come back to do better good. So they'll give you a little bit extra tools and things in which you can do that. But you definitely might struggle along the way to learn that.
Yeah, because there are some people who just feel like their whole life is a struggle. Like I don't even know why, but I'm just that guy. I have the worst luck. I have this, that, or the other. And that could just be something that you're paying back, right?
Yeah, it does happen.
So when we get that second chance and we get to come back around to try to do better, what's the end game? What do you feel like when do we get to go back to the stars?
Once you have fully learned and integrated the lessons that your soul came here to learn. So again, if you didn't learn them, if you don't listen, and say your biggest lesson here is to learn how to accept that you belong. If once that is complete, then I would say, your soul also has free will and has a choice of what it would like to do. But depending on, the level or degree in which you really, really learned that, maybe in that process, you helped thousands of people. You might be asked by universe, would you like to be an ascendant master to help other people do this? So that's like a really high rank and role in the spirit world. We have tons of ascended masters that work with us today. In so many different, religions or beliefs. Or you might just come back as an ancestor for the people in your bloodline to help and support them. So you might be called to do more work, beyond and
it's not even about you.
And it's not, and it's totally, it's not even about you because you've done your work. And again, or you can just might hang up on the stars and just chill out, just go
be the free spirit,
free, but or you might be called to do more work, but and you're totally taken care of in that sense. There's no bills to worry about, so you might as well.
What is your favorite thing to do?
Going outside in nature, going on soul walks, communing with the land. I'd say especially on native land. As a white person, it's very interesting to hear what the land has to say, to hear sometimes when it's crying and to hear sometimes when it's really happy about the work that's being done or the things that have been supported or built and how I can help with that, communing with animals and things like that. I currently volunteer at the Colorado Wolf and Wildlife.
Oh, I love that place.
Sanctuary. I'm a full-time volunteer
there. Are you
there.
really? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's awesome.
It's amazing.
Yeah. We got the little foxes and everything up there too.
Yeah. So I love doing that too, but just being out in nature because nature has been my biggest soul teacher when I didn't have my actual guides, gurus, shamanic teachers. That has and will continue to be my teacher even when I feel complete with their work. It's always reflecting and being a mirror back to me, what I could do better as a human, what I could do better as a soul, and or just like celebrating what I have already done too. It's not always work. Sometimes it is just like a celebration or a recognition of we see you, thank you type of thing. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What are you getting out of the wolf experience up there?
Well, I have a deep soul connection to wolves. One would say my spirit guide.
Animal, yeah.
My soul. I even take it further. I'm like, F spirit animal. That's my soul animal. Like,
okay.
I just feel the connection. I see myself so much more clearly when I watch them. Because sometimes I feel like this work can be isolating. But when I see them working together as a pack and that family and connection, I'm like, okay, I really just got to connect more with my human brothers and sisters in this life. So I have really deep connection with them. And out of that, I just love conservation work. I think that's part of besides just working with humans and doing really cool things in the astral world and all that, like just being with the animals is very grounding, brings me so much peace, even though I'm like mucking up horse poop and all that stuff. It's very peaceful and it just helps me to ground when you're doing all that, a lot of that work, your soul and spirit's kind of up here sometimes. So it really helps to bring you back down.
My wife gets that from gardening.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She'll garden in bare feet and that way she's grounded and stuff like that. But I'm like, God, that's work. You're out there pulling all that weeds. And she's like, nah, this is good.
It's peaceful. It's good.
Good
it's
stuff.
Ancestral. It's primal. It really helps to bring us back to our roots.
Which is huge because I think that's a lot of what the problems are that we're experiencing today is just we're not connected to our instincts, our roots anymore. Nope. Now it's all about judging and worrying about what other people are thinking and doing and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Other than the shamanic runes, what else? Any other tools? The tarot you said you said you made your own.
Yeah.
So explain the difference between a standard deck that you get at a store and what yours are.
Yeah. So also during the pandemic was a really fun year for me. I really changed a lot that year. I had my wolf spirit guide come to me one evening, just relaxing on the couch, minding my own business. Hey, you're going to create a tarot deck. And I'm like, okay, tell me more, type of thing. So I open up my my computer, Google Docs, and again, just like purely channel, I'm communing with the spirit. It comes through as a feeling or knowing. Or that night I really heard a lot, like exactly what words are going to be wrote. I think I almost wrote the entire tarot deck in one.
Really?
Yeah. Because with each tarot deck comes a little booklet, which helps people to describe, like interpret what the meanings are from the author's perspective. So I basically wrote that in one night. And the reason why it was really important for me to make this is because the guide said, you're going to make a wolf inspired tarot deck. I go online, I'm like, oh, spiritual community, people love wolves like that. And like ravens and owls are like huge spiritual totems that everyone knows and loves. So I'm like, oh, that already exists, wolf tarot deck. It didn't. It did not exist. And I was shook because, of course, I would have loved a wolf tarot deck. So I'm like, there has to be others that want this too. And basically channeled that all in one night, started to do the artwork. Being an art teacher, I know how to draw. So I was just drawing it, got my best friend on board to help me interpret it into computer language, did the digital drawings and birthed that. But it's really similar to other tarot decks. But instead of like the standard, which each tarot deck, there's each card is almost the exact same. Sometimes the imagery or the feeling of it is a little different, but the words on the cards are the same. Like you'll always have a fool. You'll always have the sun. You'll always have
the hanging man.
The hanged man. So this one, I decided to do it if I was to interpret it in the symbols or languages of wolves. So I'm like, there's no hanged man in the world of wolves. What would that be?
Yeah.
And so I would like just create different words for it type of thing. Like I change the devil into the prey type of thing.
Nice.
Yeah. And instead of the pentacles, which tends to be like the earth, the money, the physicality things, I called that suit the hunters because it's all about that physical. And when they bring back the prize, they bring out, the resources. So I basically just changed a little bit of the essence of some of those cards to really help you really feel like you're in the world of animals, specifically wolves, and can learn from their medicine and their magic, basically.
Very cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
Very cool.
It's
Very
called
neat.
the Wild Wolf Tarot.
And are you going to produce these for people, or is it just for you?
It's been out. Yeah.
It's been out?
It's been out. I sell them on Etsy. I did a Kickstarter for them, which helped bring them to life. Have them in a few metaphysical shops, things like that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of shops,
Yeah.
right? How I found you, right, was through Celestial Salt.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep.
That's the name of the shop. So we've had Celebration here forever. I don't know how long have you lived in Colorado now?
A month.
A month. Oh, you're brand new.
Brand new.
Oh, you haven't even seen everything yet.
No.
Okay. So you've been to Manitou, obviously. That was
Yes.
probably one of your first stops.
Yeah.
So in Old Colorado City, there used to be a shop called Celebration. And
Yes.
that was the place where everybody went. We had a metaphysical fair every year, the Steady Auditorium. You could go get readings. You could go get anything.
Cool.
But Celebration was like the place where you would go get your stones and your cards and your, whatever it is that you were into.
Yeah.
And so we were driving around, my wife and I think dropping off our son at school, and it's right by up where the old Gold's Gym is. It's on Union and is it Chapel Hills?
I believe so.
Yeah, Union and Chapel Hills, but very cool people. Great shop.
Oh, yeah.
I bought a salt globe.
Cool.
Yeah, very cool.
And the rooms there are really cool too. Because
I know, I'm
I've never
interested.
done them either.
Yeah.
So it was the first time my experience even seeing them. But no, what I think is so important about a metaphysical shop is the people who run it.
Yeah,
Oh my
absolutely.
goodness. And the family that owns that is like the sweetest,
So high energy.
most generous. And the shop owner, herself, Lisa, does work. Like she's in this world. She sees clients, so she gets it. She's in it. So it's a love.
And her husband too, right? Wasn't he you, or maybe not?
Maybe not. Yeah.
Maybe I didn't interpret that was the right person, but there was a gentleman there that was there as well.
Oh, yeah.
And then a younger man.
Her son.
Yeah, okay. Her son, yeah, and he was on point. I got good energy from both of them.
The other
It was-
gentleman that might have been there was another reader.
Yes.
Actually.
Yes, the bald guy.
Sean, yeah.
Sean, okay.
Sean's
yeah.
awesome
Is he?
too, because he does more of the mediumship stuff. And he goes out and does like paranormal investigations too.
I got to get with him. I got to talk to him on that.
Because it's a totally different field, right? Like
Yeah.
each healer, each person has their gifts, right? If I was here trying to force myself to do mediumship and do all that, it would have just, not worked out in that sense.
Sure.
So I love that every person at that shop is so different.
Yeah.
So we each offer such different gifts, and it's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool.
Yeah, it was neat. So if anybody needs anything in that realm or anything like that, go see Celestial Salt. Can they connect with you through there as well?
Yes, they can. So I do tarot readings and rune readings through Celestial Salt. And yeah, there's like simple ways to connect. I'll probably be hosting classes and things like that because I love to teach, love to help people tap in themselves. I like being a reader, but I like even more to help people read for themselves and trust their own gut with that. But outside of that, like courses, mentorship, I have mentorship that's like 6 months to a year long, depending on how deep you want to go into this work together. You can find me on BrionaJolie.com.
BrionaJolie.com.
Yeah.
And it's a cool website.
Thank you.
I clicked onto it and it's beautifully set up.
Thank you.
Whoever did it.
My fiance is a web developer.
He did a great job. I was like, man, I got to get with whoever did this website. This is amazing. Any of your socials, anything like that people can find you?
Everything's Briona Jolie, spelled in the way that you can see, I'm sure, on the podcast. But I do have Instagram. I'm on YouTube. So I love sharing free resources. But if you want to work with me and receive any of my offerings, my website has everything that you could possibly want to do with me and work together and learn how to do this stuff at brionajolie.com. Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah, I look forward to getting with you because I'd love to work with you a little bit and check it out. So, Briona Jolie, everybody. Devil's Dice Podcast will be back next week. Not sure who we're gonna have yet, but definitely stick around and check us out. Again, Celestial Salt and BrionaJolie.com. That's Briona, right?
Jolie.
There you go. Now they got it. Have a good day, everybody.